All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to this week in Base Hit. Today is a special World Series episode. Now, you are here with myself, Hardy, Brewers, Cardinals, and then, of course, the gloater, Citizen Clone, and his Dodgers. Clone, start us off. How are you?
Going
Congratulations
on,
on
man? How
being
you
in the
doing?
World Series.
I tried before we got on here. I tried to put this on, but it's not going to fit. But
Show him Andy Reid in
all
the
my
punt,
gear,
pass, and kick
all my
competition.
gear, yeah. And you guys should look up. I'll put a link to Andy Reid and the punt, pass, and kick. That was what I was compared to with
Uh, that's
the hat.
funny.
World Series.
Uh,
Nobody wants
yep.
to acknowledge. Nobody else here.
And welcome, special guest, Hardy. How you doing?
Not too bad. Too
We're
bad.
like you can feel the exuberance and excitement coming from two-thirds of us over the Yankees versus Dodgers in the World Series.
I promise we're not going to talk about the real life World Series. I thought I wanted to pull you guys in to look at base hit World Series. I was thinking about like one. How to win a World Series, how we've won World Series, different ways to win a World Series. Then I also went and dug through some stats because we all have ideas about like what it takes to win a World Series, and I just wanted to look at some of the very general stats to see what actually sticks out. So it was interesting to me.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. And then when we end the show, can we each do our World Series prediction? That's how we'll wrap the show. Okay, because I actually do have one. I feel strongly about it. So, all right, uh, let's do it.
I swear that I'm not. Yeah. Which one of us has won the most World Series? Probably.
Oh,
Yeah.
has to be
Yeah.
me because I'm in a lot more leagues. It's not because I'm better. I'm just like sheer quantity, I would think.
Yes,
Right?
it's got to be. Yes. I
I
think
would
I think
think.
by far. I didn't even look that one up. I'm just saying it. And I'm third because I was on
I
one
don't
team
know though.
got
Hardy went on a
I
crazy
was one
run.
team forever. Also,
Oh
though.
yeah, it was one team, but you were consistently in the playoffs. How many World Series did you win during that 100 years?
I'm not even sure. I
I know
used to
your
keep
record.
track of it in the
I do know your
forums.
record with that team.
I used to keep track of it in the forums. Like I keep track of my record in each of the series too. And I remember at one point I had really bad luck in the World Series itself, but I had ridiculously good luck in the others. So I appeared in a ton of
Yeah.
Correct,
World
correct,
Series
correct.
because of that. Like I was winning like eight, it was like 70% of the division series I would win, and like almost that much in the LCS. And then the World Series, I was winning like one third or something like that at one point
Oh, so
during that
maybe
run.
you have one more.
The the trivia that came up in this is what team has lost the most World Series by a mile, and it's the Bayside.
Is
Like,
it?
Oh, is it really?
yes, yes, yes.
That
But
doesn't
it's
surprise me
also, but it's
though.
like the no,
In
but it's
all
like
of
Nolan
base
Ryan.
hit?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. By a mile, by a mile.
Really? I didn't know that. That's kind of funny.
I think it was like nine more than anybody else. You're 30 and 35 in World Series. You also, but it's like Nolan Ryan because it's the
Yeah,
most
it's a
appearances
long.
by any team also.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
um,
yeah. It's
but I
kind of
think
like it's kind of
And
like
it
Pete Rose has the most strikeouts, but it doesn't really matter because he has the most hits.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One,
I
like
think
I said, it was way worse than that. I've gotten a little
picked it
bit
up.
more fortunate in the more recent times in the World Series than I was at one time. It was like at one point it was like 13 and 26 or something like that.
Oof.
And but it's also
It
like
was bad.
if you think about it, like just thinking about like winning a World Series, right? The idea of being consistently in playoffs, be part of that because if you're making a
Mhm.
team that's going to make the playoffs each season, sometimes that's not the best team for World Series because they're made to, yeah, be consistent over
Yeah.
rush it.
But playoffs pitching plays a lot better. You got to have those top guys, it seems like. Whereas in the regular season, not that you're better off more balanced, but it helps you more to have a good like fifth starter. In the playoffs, that guy's in the bullpen now.
Yeah,
So
you really have to
that's
have two
a big
aces.
difference.
And then
Hmm.
obviously you're pitching more than two guys, but if you have two aces going into the playoffs, you're going to be fine. But during the season, you're going to lose a lot more games.
Yeah, you
I've
can't
I've
pitch them in
I've
a
gone
three.
out of what?
I was just gonna say in the playoffs you can run a three-man rotation, and
Yeah, yeah.
if you've got two aces, they're pitching, out of seven games, what pitching? Five out of the seven. So
And
it's
yeah,
like, you're not getting anything close to that in the regular season if you got two aces. I mean, they'll pitch 80 games for you, but that's half the season as opposed to five out of seven.
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. I built teams specifically for the playoffs because I knew I could get in, and that's the best way to do it. As long as you know you can get there. But like I've had a lot of 86 win teams win the World Series.
Well,
Hmm.
that's baseball itself, right? Is that the win percentages are so close that if you just make it to the playoffs, you're giving yourself a fighting chance.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. If you don't get there, you don't have a chance.
so here, since we're talking about it, and I still want to talk about how we imagine doing it, but here's the stats. I want you guys to guess at some of this. What percent of the time, this is comparing the teams that won the World Series versus teams that lost the World Series in 24 team leagues, did the team that won have score more runs that season, have a better offense?
I would say that's probably significant because the offense going into the playoffs is going to likely be the same. So I bet they win 64% of the time, the
I,
higher scoring offense.
I was gonna say 60.
55.1% of the time.
Whoa, that's lower. That's a lot lower than I would have thought.
So then we're talking about pitching being the most. What percentage you think the team that gave up the least runs has the best pitching? And this is just and this is all the qualifiers of this is not scientific. We're not looking
Yeah.
at individual
Well, it gave
players.
up the least runs as pitching and defense then.
Yeah, pitching and defense.
Okay, I'm going to
I mean,
stick with the same thing, 64.
yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna go higher, but based on that first number, I feel like it's probably lower, so I'll say 60 on that one.
58.57. So that's
It's crazy.
pitching matters more than
But
batting
but it
generally.
feels like more of a coin flip than I would have thought.
Uh yeah, and that's baseball. So then if you go by run differential, it keeps going up.
Oh,
60
really?
60.74 if you have the better run differential.
Because
And
that
So
that kind of accounts for both sides of it.
yep.
if you think about it though, and I just had to look it up real quick, 58.5% win percentage is 94 wins. And that's
Yeah.
playing against the same team over and over. Imagine that. So you're beating that team
That's true.
94 times in 160 games. Even 55% would be 88 wins. So you think of that as a really good
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
record,
true. That's a good way to
but
think about it.
it's
But
just
in a seven
baseball is
game
such,
series.
but baseball has so much luck involved. It's crazy, which is why short series are kind of crazy in themselves. Like,
Which
the
is why
real
they
the real
shouldn't do it in
talent
the real
talent.
playoffs, right? Like 3 game
Hmm.
series are BS.
Yeah.
And that's what I was
Yep.
working. So I was looking at that. So the last one of these was if you're leading in both, if you have the better pitching and the better batting for the season, 66.56% that you win.
So
So 2/3
two-thirds
of
of
the
the
time.
time,
And if
exactly.
you so if you work backwards from that, it comes out to like if that's 7 game series, if you work back, it's like 57 something percent per game that it would work off of. And then a 7 game series, you get 66%. If you kept going, but you still have to go. I think it was like you do a 55 game series, you have like an 85% chance of winning, but just
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like real baseball that's why it's just getting into the playoffs, right? Um,
Mhm.
Yeah. But when you think about it, actually, 55% doesn't sound like a ton, but remember that brings the other person not to 50 to 45. So that difference is huge. If you're thinking about
yeah.
it if like balls in a tumbler, you're much more likely to win.
And if you're playing, I mean, imagine you got the better team against another guy and you're playing 3 World Series in a row. I think do you really expect to win all three of them? I mean, I think winning two out of three overtime
Yep. Yep.
pays off.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's also why, it's very, very probably one of the more rare things is sweeping 12 and 0 in the playoffs. Just because, it's already crazy just alone to sweep 4 games, let alone against a good team, let alone doing 3 in a row against good teams. At
Yep.
least think the good team that they made playoff.
Yep. So
Hey, Russ,
yeah,
here's some trivia for you. Who's the only team in TCL history to go 12 and 0 in the playoffs?
I thought there were two of them. Was it really? For
I don't know. I think I'm the only one. I think it was
Okay.
2006.
some reason I thought Lemke might have done it, but I'll look.
Uh,
I'll look it up. I believe it.
not don't look it
Oh,
up.
it's
Just take me
rare.
at my word.
I know it's rare. So, uh, so the teams that think about how you guys have won World Series. I have more data, but like different ways to win World Series. We already talked about getting aces. Um, we all know we talk about tank and bank, which is often the case. We want to get rid of that. You also have I mean, I think that you and I, Jason, have done stadium. I did not do data on that, but thinking about having different stadiums. For a long
I
time, I had really tiny stadiums, which it felt like I'm not sure that if it was in my mind or not, but it felt like there were a bunch of teams that were not made to hang in the tiny stadiums that you could make up. And now I've gone the other way of the big stadiums.
I mean,
Um,
but that's the thing with those is my rule of thumb is always be like zig when others zag, and like there's this big stadium renaissance. So I went right back to the smallest stadium possible because then you can get away with not having great range and focus on that cyclical lineup strategy where you're trying to stay you're going for on base
yep.
percentage to keep your and that works, but you get into the playoffs against those big stadium teams I mean you can get beat up pretty
You
quick.
just
But
you
I did win in
just
Blab
beat
that
me
way.
up in that series, and it
Yeah,
felt like I mean my team was super damn fast, and they never got a chance to advance,
can't
and
take
it was
any extra
very
bases.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. What do you think, Mike?
I've used any and all of the stadiums. I feel like it works. I don't know. I've never seen any sort of correlation with anything with it personally.
Really?
I mean, you see the numbers change. Bigger stadiums have more offense. I've just never like I've tried to strategize for that, and I feel like it doesn't really, to me, it hasn't made as much difference as I thought it would. I don't, and maybe that's just a one-off type of thing. I'm not sure though. Maybe I haven't had enough teams to really play with it. Truly, I don't
I
know.
need to check the data too, but I do know, like all those years that I had the small stadiums, and I felt like I knew how to play them. If I look at my home and away record, it's not like I had a big home field advantage. Like
Yeah, that's
like how
Exactly.
much of it is in your mind?
hmm
I just
That's what
feel
I
like
noticed because it's like, oh, I've got a team built for offense, and like I'll make them or a defensive team. Let's say I've got a defensive team and a ground ball staff, so I'm gonna make huge walls in the outfield because the ball's never gonna get hit in the outfield. But then I look and like my home and away, there's no
yep.
benefit to that versus a team that isn't so built specifically that way. I don't know.
you know,
That's what I've kind of noticed.
something I've seen that I haven't seen anybody do before, but over like the last 10 seasons in redraft, Lemke got very good at doing something I've never seen, where normally if you have a big park, you get high finesse pitchers and then you fill the stadium with range. What he actually did was get fly ball pitchers, fill his outfield with range, and focus on the best hitters because corner outfielders, you can typically get better hitters with range. And he's been in the World Series like 7 or 8 out of the last 10 seasons. Um, and I've never seen anybody play like that before, but his new strategy, something I've never
Mhm.
seen in 20 years, it works like a charm. I don't know if
Huh.
he'll go game wide or not, but it's been impressive.
it's still the zig versus zag. I mean,
Yeah,
what's
it's
in the
total. Total.
that's what I think about. Like, because since everybody knows that they want to get ace pitcher, and if you're specifically if you're not going to have high picks, like how you can make it up, and that's what like my offense this year. In some of my teams been a lot better than I expected, and it's been totally like fucking scrappy speed. Like I could still find speed where it's being undervalued. I mean, haven't you have to find that stuff, right? Adapt what your league is willing to give you.
Yeah, I've kind of know I've noticed that in like the GOAT drafts. When we do a full league draft, it's like you kind of have to do well, you have to go away from what everyone's going for.
Yeah.
You have to find that, what do you call it, like a market inefficiency or whatever,
Yep.
and go and grab that. Because I know I've never been one that really cared that much about corner outfield range, but it's like if I can't get range for defense, at the main positions, then I'm just going to max out everywhere else if I can. If I want to have that sort of defensive team, if I don't want to go all offense or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like if everyone's going to go for middle infield defense and pitching, well, I'm going to go for one tier below pitching, great
Yep.
defense everywhere else, and then go for solid offense. And the one thing I've been playing with a little bit is infield arm. I think
Oh,
it
for
can
sure.
be more valuable than people think, because I know some people completely disregard it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think depending on what kind of pitching staff you have, I think if you allow a lot of base runners, if you have great infield arm, every ground ball that gets hit to them is going to turn into a double play,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Not
huge.
not even infield. Just
At every
even if you
position.
just have the second baseman, you can
Hmm.
turn so many more double plays. But if you have the
Yeah.
third baseman, it helps as well. Uh, yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And then as Clone and I can both attest to a million times over, it doesn't matter during the season if your shortstop has no glove, but in the playoffs, he will ruin your life.
Yep.
Uh, Foley this year and Blab had 9 errors in the playoffs. I don't even know how that's possibly ruined my life.
The clutch rating.
Quite serious. We just had, I don't know if you saw the conversation we had on Discord yesterday with Rocket Ride, Roki, whatever, but he was talking about I've got a top nobody had talked to him about defense apparently, and he was saying, like, I've got a top five defense. Like I don't need to fix it. And like, what do you mean you got a top five defense? I in errors, I give up the least amount of errors, and everybody's like,
It's like,
no, no,
uh-oh.
no, 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 no. Because
No.
that was how he was judging it all.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, when I
like
started, I did the
1980s
same thing.
baseball.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, everyone does that. Like you make a mistake trading away someone that someone else knows is really valuable, that you see that high range rating, but it's like, if you don't know that it's that valuable, then why wouldn't you trade him for a 99 range guy for a 99 slugging guy? Like but yeah, it's you don't see the numbers as easily with range, as far as you see a 99 slugging guy, you see him hit 60 home runs. You see that in the stat line.
Yep.
You don't see it in the stat line as easily, if a
Yep.
guy's got 99 range. It's
Because
just
it shows up in the picture more than anything. And we were talking about like
Mhm.
if you're looking at the actual like range stat that they put up, like how that can be deceptive, right? Because
Oh, yeah. Because
there's
you only
only so
get
many
24
balls.
or 27 outs.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
it
like,
still gets flattened out.
yep. So for that
Actually,
one, like I don't barely ever look at the actual stats that they're putting up range wise for that. I just go by the rating.
I will here is one of my best tips that I've never said aloud. But if you really want to get good at this game and you're not watching on the play-by-play viewer, you have to, because you're going to see things that you would have never seen otherwise. And a good example of that is how many balls, foul balls, that a high range shortstop or second baseman can catch. And you'll never see it on the stat sheet or the box score. But if you have a 99 second baseman, he'll catch foul balls all the time. And those
Really?
things, Oh yeah, and those things just end up to be pitches otherwise. So you wouldn't even see it. It would be a strike or it'd be a ball or what, or it'd be a strike, I guess. Um, and yeah, like high range second baseman catch foul balls. Now, it's not that big, so I'm not giving away
Yeah.
the story here, but it's just like that is one of like 20 things that you'll see during those games. You'll also see your second baseman not turning double plays without an arm.
Hmm.
It's the most frustrating thing in the world. That doesn't show up in the
Yes.
box score.
You get excited with a ground ball to the shortstop, and then they don't turn the double play, and it's frustrating.
And you know exactly why when you see it on play-by-play. So watch
Hmm.
play-by-play, viewer.
So
Yep.
all right, let's go back to some of the data because
All right. Yep.
we all have these ideas, but I was just curious. All right, so looking at some of the batting stuff, percent of the time the winner hit more home runs versus the other team versus had more walks than the other team. Which one's going to be more valuable?
Wait, what? I don't understand the question.
Got one
Home
team
runs or
has more
walks.
home runs than the other. What's
Or
their win
walks.
percentage in the World
Oh,
Series than team that had the most walks?
I would bet home runs matter more. That would be my guess.
Yep.
And I bet it wouldn't make that much difference.
Yep. Uh, 54% of the time, the team that wins the World Series hit more home runs, and 52.4% of the time walks. I was just curious in terms of teams that how they're built. Um, More important than either of those, the team with the less ground outs. 54.6% of the team. Although actually I should do it. Fly ball, ground ball ratio. That's bigger than any of them. The team with the higher fly ball ratio 60% of the time. So that's like pretty significant.
Wow.
yeah,
Uh,
that is significant.
Stuck out.
Huh.
Well,
Um,
I have said on the forums for 15 years, and everybody makes fun of me that I say strikeouts matter because I say strikeouts are a good thing.
yep.
And it's true because ground ball double plays kill you more than anything else. Especially with the love of finesse, if you can get a good ground ball pitcher, he will ruin your innings.
I meant to check strikeouts matter for batters and I didn't.
Let's just say it's 99%
checked
of the
it for
time.
pitchers. I checked it for pitchers. What percent of the time does the team that struck out more win the World Series?
50.1%.
I'll go with that. I'll endorse that. I bet it's 50-50.
52.2. So it's like
Oh,
pretty even with your team getting walks.
Yeah.
I pulled all the pitcher stats too, and a lot of those are skewed because just better pitching staff's going to pay off. But some of them stuck out. Like some of the stuff that's it like more grounded, giving up more double play. Wait, how would you say it? Pitchers that
earn more.
pitchers that got more
Double plays.
double plays.
I guess you could say it the other way is the team that grounded into more double plays.
Yeah. 50.2%. I was surprised at that. I was hoping Mike would
Really?
explain that one. Because that one does seem like it would be
Well, there goes my strikeouts matter thesis because that's exactly what I was saying. But there's so few double plays, so it's probably like because
double
there's probably an
play.
average of 2 double plays per game.
Well, but it's over the season. I don't know.
Oh, you were just saying World Series.
Oh, well, this is the World Series winners versus the World Series
Oh,
losers. So
oh, 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 oh.
looking at how they looked for the season. So that one is like almost even. But then if you look at like we talked about complete games, what do you think complete games is? Because we talked about aces.
Yeah. So I've always I almost never have a closer. I almost always pitch my starters as long as they can go. And but
In
I
the
don't
regular season and in the World Series or
yeah. I minimize my relievers as much as I can so I can save that payroll for batters a lot of times. But I don't actually think it matters that much. I bet that's pretty close to 50% because I've seen people build teams all sorts of different ways. and use low energy pitchers, use the relievers, use the closer option. I don't think it matters. I bet it's 50-50.
I was leaning the other way. I thought it might matter more just because of the super aces, but that this is a huge sample size, so maybe
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
off on
Yeah.
that.
54.3, which
Oh, yeah.
is fairly significant.
Yeah.
In talking about the relievers.
You are right about super aces though, because
Yeah.
that's who will win World Series is guys with, the really top tier EN super pitcher.
I
So
thought it might be even bigger than that when I was looking at it. I was a
yeah,
little surprised. And talking on the other side of it, the team with more saves during the regular season
that
only
doesn't
win
matter.
only wins 47% of the time. No, it's the other way, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
related to team
That's
with more
the first one
holds.
below 50% you've had.
Team with more holds during the regular season only wins 45% of the time. This is your trick. Don't have any holds on your team.
Don't
Uh,
use middle relievers is the moral of the story.
don't use middle relievers. Yeah, yeah.
And for all of you pounding your computer and saying bullpen logic right now, I would respond with have better relievers. I actually care about those guys.
You talked about the errors. Your team gives up least error or least guys reaching on an error for the season. How much do you win the World Series? So better, theoretically better. Well,
I want
I was going
Mike
to
to
say
go
better
first.
glove, but it also
If
depends on
your
ground
team makes
ball.
less errors,
If your team has less reach on error, so yeah, I guess it is makes less errors.
that probably doesn't matter at all. 50%, I would say.
I'm
I
going to
wouldn't
say it's
mind.
52 because I think there is a aspect. I've lost enough painful games to think that it's more.
52.5. I mean,
Uh,
that might be related to also how many ground balls you're giving up.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Oh yeah, that's true. Because you probably make more errors with heavy ground ball
yeah.
yeah,
teams. Well, no,
Uh,
wait. So if you
yeah. You
make
would.
less,
you
wait.
have more chances if you're having ground ball pitchers.
So was it if your team
The team gives up.
makes gives? Okay, gotcha.
Your team gives up less uh, guys on getting on base on errors than the other team.
Hmm.
And more
Gotcha.
balls in the infield get touched by multiple players, so there's more chances for errors in general.
So that would be the opposite then, I would think. If you've got heavy, if you've got a lot more errors, it would mean you have a ground ball team, which would be a positive. That makes sense?
I think it's the way you said it.
You're saying the pitchers, yeah. No, I think that they mess with each other. That's
Oh,
what I was hoping because I think yeah, we said from the batting like the higher fly ball to ground ball ratio significantly you do better. So
hmm.
then going back the other way, you got to think, yeah.
Going back to that fly
Uh,
ball thing, do you think that's why Lemke's strategy's working well? Is because he's paying attention, he's taken away the most likely path of victory?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But
I
he's
rely
also
on my
given up more fly balls the way he's doing it. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever.
um,
I've got some theories on that stuff, but we don't need to go into it right now because I can get long.
uh, the actual ground ball to fly ball, and this was confusing to me. Ratio of the pitchers was almost it comes out almost even 49.3. I'm
Oh,
confused
does
about
it?
one. Yep.
I always thought
Batting
it'd
to
probably be 53, something like that, towards ground balls, just because of how people deploy starters.
Here's another strikeouts matter. If your team gives up less walks versus your team having more strikeouts, which one more likely to win the World
Oh,
Series?
less walks. Because you can get outs other ways, but if you give up a walk, that's a person on base. So you want to give up less walks and have more strikeouts.
I would think that too.
Yep. You guys are so smart. 52.7, 51.9. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously this is like high level. There was one that stuck out. So we have those pitching stats. So the big like team pitching stats of opponent average, opponent slugging, opponent ERA, whip, and BaBiP. Uh, so which one of those would be most highly having a better one of those? What would be most highly correlated with uh, and how big with winning the
Go
World
through
Series?
those again. All of
Opponent
them.
average, opponent slugging, opponent ERA, opponent WHIP, and opponent BaBiP. And I am asking this one because like I don't ever know like which one of those is going to matter more. So
I
this was
think I
interesting.
know, but I want Mike to answer first.
These are pitching stats, right?
Your pitchers have better, yeah. Your pitchers are better or
Okay,
have
I would
more.
just guess OPS
That was an
because
option.
that's.
That wasn't an option, but
Oh, that wasn't. So
It
I would
would
say
be
I
OPS
would
if
say
that was an
slugging.
option.
it was not
I would say
OPS.
slugging. Then I feel like if you can limit damage, I feel like that would be the way to go. Because whip, I think is I don't know. I've seen a lot of really good pitchers with high whip because you got good defense that counters it.
I
So
got you.
I was going to say whip. I think whip as it comes out in the wash is indicative of how much damage a pitcher takes. Um, I don't know. What is the answer?
Dependent is it on the team? The answer is opponent batting average
No way.
more than any of them. It was
Hmm.
shocking. And I don't know what it means. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. 59.4% of the time, if your team has a lower uh, uh, batting average than the other team, than the losing team, you win the
Shouldn't
World Series.
whip always be more important than
BABIP
average?
BABIP is 57.5%, and then it goes down from there. Um, yeah,
So,
we can
and you said it
ponder
wasn't
that.
OPS. So, like batting average was more important than OPS.
Yeah, might not have been hugely, but it was the one that came up
I never would have guessed that.
higher than any. Yeah, that one stuck out to me.
That's
Um,
wild. That's wild that you got that answer wrong so bad, Russ. Like what you got to work on your research because there's no way that's right.
there's
That's
that
interesting,
too.
man.
But
Yeah.
like go looking at it. Uh,
Okay, that might be one that we talk about on the forums and Discord. So people should check that one out, see if they buy that because that doesn't make sense to me.
I thought it might be BABIP. Is that how you pronounce it?
Babbitt,
What do you
yeah, yeah.
because I thought we put that in there theoretically as the general measure of how good your pitcher's doing. But I know,
Pitchers are
but they're
independent of
all
fielding.
they're all not independent of fielding, right? I mean, you're trying.
Not in this
What
game.
they what?
Not in the way that the game works. If it was a physics engine, then that would mean a lot more. But I mean, it still has value. It's just if it would have
Just
more
not in the
value if
same
it
way
was
as
a.
MLB.
Mhm.
What in
Yeah.
MLB would they use if they're looking at, the most significant summary stats for how good your pitching is?
War.
That or like that fielding independent pitching.
Yeah,
They
I was
got
thinking
different metrics for those.
fielding independent pitching. That's a pretty good
hmm
one.
I'm not a big stat nerd on that type of stuff. I've heard of all of them. I have
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
an idea of what they all mean, but I couldn't tell you which one's the best one right now. I know they have like opponents, what is it? Like WRC plus,
Mhm.
like weighted runs created, which also includes like getting rid of stadium effects and like
Yeah.
there's all kinds of
Mhm.
metrics out there now that I know they all exist. It's just I don't know. I couldn't tell you which one a team weights more than another. I can tell you that they would not weight opponent batting average though very highly.
I yeah, that one was surprising again. I got to come up with a theory on that. And again, this was just winners versus losers. I didn't factor in how many games you won in or anything like that. And it was for the season, so we know that if you're only pitching some of your guys, it's going to change. But I was just curious,
I
like
mean,
if somebody new that's trying to win a World Series, like
if somebody's
when,
new trying to win a World Series, there is a piece of advice I would give them towards that stat, and that's a lot of times you have to fill your lineup with somebody that you're hiding at DH or in right field or something. And if they only have one attribute, have it be BA because they can keep your lineup moving, and their upside is just enough to offset their downside, unlike somebody that's a one tool range talent at corner outfield or one tool slugging talent. It's like I'd always take BA. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
I don't know either. I wanted to go in and look more at some of the team makeups, and maybe I'll get Mike to do a second version of this with me to look at the actual players that played in the playoffs, because I'd be curious to see like the ratings breakdown of World Series winners, World Series losers. That's interesting.
How many,
We all have our
how many super elite guys there are, 95 plus overall, that type of,
Yeah.
how many of those versus how many teams have more balanced rosters?
That would be interesting. Yeah, that would be interesting. Top to bottom pitching, top to bottom. Well, top to bottom pitching would be interesting too, since everybody but two or three guys is playable game to game.
I had said for all those years I loved low end guys, and when I was winning a lot, I had a ton of low end guys. That was the marketing efficiency to me. I don't know if it still works anymore.
Well, you were saying it doesn't work in hard cap, like
stuff because you need the innings.
Yeah.
Um,
which is interesting.
Yeah, it's all interesting. We got that big database that we can dig in and actually see like how it's panned out. And I don't know how much of this stuff has changed over time. It's interesting.
Yeah, I wish we had all the old stadium data.
So do I. Yeah.
That would be, I don't remember when it was. We put that in probably a year ago, 2 years ago that we started tracking it all correctly.
Year, yeah.
It's like if your stadium hasn't changed ever, then we've got accurate data. But if it changed at any point, then unfortunately the history wasn't being saved before. It is now, at least. But
yeah, we could look at what we've got for recent stuff where we have stadium data and see. I'm curious. But even all of this, like we're talking about the ones that are significant or not, like it's baseball, so it's like 52%, 58%.
Yeah.
Like they're all not hugely skewed.
I think the lesson that I pull away from this for anybody that's trying to learn is like there's lots of little tips and tricks that are out there, but the biggest thing is if you're building a team, build a team, have a plan for what you're trying to get to overall, and build in that direction cohesively. Because like best available player works fine, but if you can build a team that's designed around a defensive plan, offensive plan, and pitching plan that works together, that's more important than best available player mostly.
I do think I think that's a route when you're trying to find your spot, to find a niche that's not the exact thing that
what everybody else is doing.
But then again, that conversation on the boards yesterday, there's also the trial and error of he had very strong feelings of a direction to go, and then it would probably help, and we had it where digging into some of the data and checking what changes if you move a guy around, and seeing like we all learned, I think, that you got rid of the range guy and all of a sudden your pitcher started being worse, and it wasn't and if you didn't change anything else, you had and messing with the settings that way. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if you I could go on about that, but
yeah, no, it's interesting. And even people say it's a crapshoot, but you're still going to win. If you've got the better team and everything, still going to win 2 out of 3.
Yeah. It's just like real baseball in that way.
You always have a chance.
It's exactly the same.
Puncher's chance, right?
Speaking of, you want to give your the
most important thing is getting to the playoffs, like we were saying.
Yeah, getting to the playoffs and seeing what happens. That's what I'm
Yep.
doing.
Let it ride.
Get there and hope for the best. And
All right.
don't do a forum or a Discord jinx.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, that's probably the best tip is whether you're superstitious or not. This is baseball. Don't mess with it. Don't jinx yourself. Don't say you're going to win. Don't, yeah. Some other time we're going to do a podcast about the jinx, the anti-jinx, the reverse jinx. I want to explain the jinx
Yep.
all the way through because it's real and it'll
Yep.
get you.
I'll get the data. I'll get the data per
Get,
what you've said in life, and yep, what
yeah,
you
it's
wrote.
100%.
Yep. Yep.
It's the only one that's 100% is the jinx.
Uh,
Jinx is undefeated in base hit.
to just get into the playoffs and trying to get by, definitely take that advice from Mike because we determined that he had lost the most World Series with us. Never mind. I'm kidding.
But he also got to the
I
playoffs 100 and what, 3 seasons in a row? Or is
I
it
totally
100?
joking. Mike is much better at this game than either
And
of us.
I bet he had to switch his plan plenty of times during 100 seasons based on what he was getting,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Switch your team build.
Yep. Along with a lot of fortunate luck.
Yep.
You want to pull together our predictions for the
Predictions. Yeah. I'll go first. I'll throw myself out there first. I am predicting that the Dodgers win in 6. I am confident of this, and
Any
Shohei
reason for it?
Ohtani will be the MVP. He is going to hit 3 home runs in the series. See, I'm going deep with this prediction. Uh, we're going to get wins from 2 wins from Flaherty. You're going to get, well, I won't go any deeper than that. 2 wins from Flaherty. Ohtani will be MVP. Mookie Betts will be the champion of the people, and Aaron Judge, who I think is a good human, will have a good series. But Garrett Cole will cry. That's my other prediction: is you will see Garrett Cole crying at the end of Game 6. There you go. That's a lot. I went deep with the prediction. All right.
You got it, Mike?
I
You
want
gonna
both
watch
of them
any
to
of it? You
lose,
gonna watch any of
but
it?
can they both lose in
Yep.
7 games?
There is
They
a
both
way for
go
both
0
of
and
them to
7.
lose.
No,
For
I haven't followed the playoffs nearly enough. I'll just take the opposite side of that. I'll say the Yankees in 7. I
Go
won't go any
7. That
deeper
would be
than that.
fun.
Not that I'm rooting for that, but I'll just take the opposite side.
Okay.
How about the ratings for the TV ratings for this? Is this going to be?
It'll
I
be
mean,
big.
they're the biggest market, and it's the most
It's
common.
2 biggest markets.
Two
Yeah,
biggest.
and the
That's what two biggest
most
market.
Yeah.
superstars.
No
Yeah,
superstars.
it'll
Oh,
be
well,
big.
and it'll be the biggest international audience ever because of Japan.
Yeah.
By far, like I don't know if you guys have seen, not to digress, but like if you look at the most expensive baseballs ever sold, it's like Mark McGuire's 70th. It's Barry Bonds when he broke Hank Aaron's record. It's Babe Ruth's 60th. And the biggest one of the bunch, I think, was Mark McGuire's 70th at like $2.5 million. Shohei Ohtani's sold for like 3.6 million for a 50-50 ball, which obviously shouldn't compare to Babe Ruth's ball, but the love for Shohei is so huge, and so many bidders in Japan are buying his balls, his cards, his jerseys, everything. Like this is so good for baseball, what's happening, and bringing Japan and the United States together in this way, I think is good for baseball overall, but it will make the audience like they stop work. Like nobody works when Shohei's playing. So it'll be huge. It'll be huge. And they were like that with Ichiro, right? Like, but Shohei's a different
Yeah.
beast. He's could be the GOAT.
Um, most common World Series matchup by far, two of all time. Maybe it brings back old baseball fans because this is
Because they
the
want to see 2 teams that can
this
buy
is the
World Series back in it.
12th time that they're meeting, I think.
Yeah.
The Dodgers have not been on the good end of most of it.
And when you think historically, the team from the Bronx and the team from Brooklyn, I mean that is kind of cool.
Yep. My prediction is the Yankees win. That's all I got.
Really? Oh, that's the jinx. He's avoiding the jinx. That's what you
No, I
would call.
totally believe.
I would
Totally
like to
believe
point
the
out
Yankees
that's an
win.
anti-jinx for those
Totally
of you
believe the
that need
Yankees
definitions.
win. I should know the way of the world.
So, okay, it's Yankees in how many games? You got to say how many games.
5.
Oh, you should have said 7. Jeez. Or you should have said they're going to sweep them. That would have been typical of what you would say.
Yeah,
And Alabama's never going to win another game again.
I was just giving them. They won't either. But no, I do think. I mean, the Dodgers have a tough time in the playoffs. We're talking about crapshoot too. Flaherty, I was just reading an article about them worried about his dip in his speed.
That's
Otani, anytime I watch him, he does bad, and I was going to try to watch a bunch, so it's going to depend on how much I watch the games, how much I jinx him there. But
like I always said, I can never jinx my team in a good way, but I can always jinx them in a bad way. So be careful out there, Dodger fans.
I'd have to. I don't know the actual. I believe the Dodgers are favored, but I don't know how widely favored they are.
It's going to be super close.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be a very close World Series because there is evenly matched as two teams I've ever seen.
Has there been? I guess I don't know about modern day, but they don't have enough pitchers. I mean, talking about having the aces, they know going in that they're going to have reliever games.
They finished this LCS with a reliever game.
I know. It's crazy. It's exciting. I don't know. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I said it before. The Dodgers had lost more starters this year than any team in baseball history to injury.
That's
crazy. I mean, they started, I don't know how many people they started. It was like 18 different starters. I mean, it's like an absurd amount of people started games.
Thanks for indulging me, guys, for going through that stuff.
We went way long. I like how you allowed us to go way long when we were talking about the Dodgers.
We were not talking about the Dodgers for most of it.
All right. All right. Okay. So we're gonna wrap up right there. Mike, any final words?
No, I think we covered it.
Russ?
Nope.
Good. All right. That was this week in Base Hit. We're going to be going into the World Series, the greatest time of the year for us baseball fans. So I hope you all enjoy it. Make your predictions, get them into the forums. Until next week, we are out of here.